Who do we all got online?
Alder Barb.
Okay.
Alder Salazar.
Alder Laster.
Oh, we got a full
Wow.
crew.
All
Full crew.
right.
Great.
It will be a long meeting, budget.
Yep.
Yep. I'd like to call the Committee of the Licensing Hearings and Public Safety to order. We're going to do item 1.1, roll call. Alderperson Feldy, Present. Alderperson Decker,
Here.
Alderperson Laster,
Here.
Alderperson Salazar,
Here.
and I'm Betty Ackley, and I'm here. So item 1.3, the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody in the chambers please join me in stating the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so item 1.4 would be the introduction of committee members, staff, and guests. I don't think we have anybody new here, so I think we can skip that. Item 2.1 is the approval of the minutes from the September 29th, 2021 meeting. And looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by stating aye.
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 Chair votes aye. That item is approved. So now we are looking at items number 3.1. We are going to move that back so that we can go over the budget items first before we vote on those. So if everybody is okay with it, I'm going to be moving on to item 3.2, which is the 2022 budget for the city attorney's office. Can't, hold on 1 second. We're having issues. Oh, sorry. I don't do this well.
This one.
Oh, thank you.
There you
Oops,
go.
sorry. Thank you. Okay, now we're good.
Can you hear me
Sorry.
now?
Yes.
Thomas
Sorry.
Cameron, Assistant City Attorney, here presenting the 2022 budget for the City Attorney's Office. As you can see, very, very similar to last year. A handful of dollars have moved from one line to another. In total, our non-personnel services have gone down by $4. So we're pleased to see that going down. Happy to answer any questions you may have on anything in our budget.
Anybody have any questions?
If you don't, I really done there. It looks pretty straightforward, to be honest with you, on mine.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good.
We don't make a
These
motion
are
on
just for
this, no.
discussion, right?
No.
Okay, and so then we
Discussion
have
only.
item 3.3, which for the 2022 budget for the Building Inspection Division of the Department of City Development.
That phone call and ran up the steps, so here
Oh,
I
sorry.
am. No problem. Thank you. So for the building inspection, I just want to start out by saying that the Department of City Development is made up of two divisions, Planning and Development, which reports to Finance, and Building Inspection reports to this committee. There's really not a lot of major changes in our budget for building inspection. We still have the same staff. The two part-time code enforcement officers are still in there. I think really the only changes are obviously the 6% IT charges, and then the consolidation of accounts with planning and development's budget. So planning and develop has a separate budget, so we had legal notices and office supplies and those kinds of things, and both divisions had budgets, and it was confusing for staff. So we consolidated those numbers into the planning and development side of things, so that's why you'll see a lot of activities that aren't funded in this budget And it's really just to make it easier on ourselves, but other than that, it's pretty much status quo with no major changes.
Well, thank you, Chad.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions for Chad?
Looks-
I think we're good. Thank you. All right, and so item 3.4 is the 2022 budget for the fire department.
Thank you. So as everybody's saying, the budget didn't change very much. I'm just going to highlight a couple of the things in our fire service budget, and then I'll go into the ambulance fund budget as well. So the budget includes about $20,000 for an architectural study for Station 3, which is our headquarters station, which is going to be over 50 years old. So we're looking at a study to see, as you are aware, we talked about it before, just some remodeling or construction. We also included 2 additional trainee for our personnel for confined space, which is a specialized rescue team. So that's about a $3,800 expense. And then our new program, the water rescue, surface water rescue program we started last year. We added 5,200 or are going to use 5,200 again to educate and get some equipment for that team. And then the last thing for the 101, our fire budget, is the $2,500 for the Citizens Fire Academy. So we're actually wrapping up our last couple weeks of the current Citizens Fire Academy, which is our first one. I think has been going great, and we'd like to continue again next year. So that's the 101. Any questions on the fire service budget? Okay, then I will get into the 280, the ambulance fund. And really, the only things that we add, it really stayed the same again, but it includes $10,000 for some purchase of our tough books, which we use in the ambulances for our responses and tracking our calls. And then the overall budget was actually reduced by $4,500, really, because we added stuff from COVID, so we were able to deduct that this year. So knock on wood, we're all good. So any questions on the ambulance fund? All right, well, thank you.
I think we're
All right, so we are moving on to item 3.5, which is the 2022 budget for the police department.
Good afternoon. So you have all of the information that we put out, including the overview and highlights, which include the department goals for 2022. To highlight the changes in the budget in the personnel area, there's an increase of 1.4%, and that's to cover the increase in salaries that we're expecting. We've had some turnover, so it's going to be under 2% because of the senior employees that have left that are being replaced by newer employees who will be lower on the pay scale there. Then in the non-personnel services area, there's a change in the overall budget of about $30,000. And so there's a couple different places that balances out, but the biggest change is in computer maintenance, where there's an increase of $30,000. And so this is related to, we have 3 different video systems essentially. So we have the body cameras that we started 5 years ago. We have in-squad video, which we've had for about, I want to say probably 15 years. And then we are required to video record certain interrogations that happen in the police department. So we have interview room, a video system too. So as all of these systems have come in and evolved, our goal has been to try to be the most efficient that we can with them. And so the way to do that is to get them in one back office software system together. So the last time we upgraded the systems, we were able to put the squad video system and the interview room system on the same system. So put them together. So that was about 6 years ago. That squad video system was bought out by a different company, and it's past end of life at this point. So anytime if something breaks on it, essentially it's done and we can't fix it. And then we signed a 5-year contract for our body cameras almost 5 years ago. That contract is up in June of 2022. So this is really the opportunity to put all those out there and put them all on the same system and integrate them. What that allows us to do is when we have to provide discovery to the DA's office, rather than download certain things on the DVDs and send them over, and then on our body camera system, we can just collate things into a link and send the link to the DA's office that's live for 3 or 4 days that allows them to download it onto their own media and share it that way with the defense attorneys. So it's both more efficient for the digital evidence manager who's managing all of that, but it's cheaper and more effective that way too. So what we're trying to do is integrate to a system that all 3 of those sources of video will be stored in one place, and so that can be done most efficiently that way, and we can transfer and all of those kinds of things in that manner. So we've been getting quotes from different companies and narrowed it down to 3 companies that can provide the service that we're looking for. So this is where the increased cost is coming from. The best price that we're getting is going to be an increase of about $30,000 a year for us. And that's because when we bought the in-squad system, it wasn't on the same type of essentially subscription type service that everybody's moved to now. So we paid up front a large amount of money to get the system and then paid a yearly maintenance cost. We're going to be going essentially to a subscription system like we have for the body cameras, which would be a 5-year contract where it would provide all of the equipment, the software, maintenance would be included in there, and then there would be a replacement after 3 years that's included in that too. So that's going to be about an increase of about $30,000 on the low end. The other 2 companies that we were looking at would actually be an increase of over $65,000. So that's where the increase in computer maintenance comes from. As Chad mentioned in his budget, there's a 6% increase in IT services. Then if we move down, there's a slight increase in our custodial services. So we have a janitorial service that provides cleaning services for the police department. The service that we have been with haven't raised their rates to us in 5 years. So they came to us this year wanting to renegotiate what they're getting paid because they're unable to essentially retain their employees at the current thing. So this is the increase that we were able to negotiate and really keep them, I think, at what is a reasonable price for us. There's a slight increase in electric due to just what Bernie's projecting is going to happen. Then in our telephone and mobile telephone accounts, Eric's been able to do some work on the lines to reduce the costs there, but our mobile telephone costs are taking that up, and that's because we've upgraded all of those services. And so by that I mean the routers in the car, we've switched from Verizon to AT&T to FirstNet, is getting us little cheaper savings there, but we've also put routers in the cars so that when the cars are out, we can turn them into a mobile hotspot and work off of that. And then we've issued all the officers phones. We got a very good deal on phones through T-Mobile, and so rather than just having a flip phone in the car that they can use to make calls, they now all have a work cell phone that's been issued to them. And then again, the whole idea behind this is the upgrades in technology. It's going to make them more efficient. So right now, we have a flip phone in the car that we issue, and then we issue a dictation device that they can dictate reports into that the typists then type up, and we issue them a small digital camera so that they can take pictures at the crime scene. So all of those things would be done now on their mobile phone. As part of a coronavirus grant that we got to update the EOC. We're also getting some software to manage large-scale events. and how we communicate with the officers. So that will be an app on the phone that will be done like that. So a lot of efficiencies are done through those phones. So that's where that cost is coming from. And then the last one is there's a reduction of about $11,000 in IT and small equipment. And that's because of all the computers that we've updated, both the in-squad computers in the squads and throughout the police department. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've updated so many of them that there's a decrease in the need to do that. So overall increase in non-personnel services is $35,501, and then a total increase for the budget is 1.5%. I'll stop there if anybody has any questions on the police budget.
I have a question. Chief, I've noticed where it says gasoline, and with the prices now at a 7-year high, do you put that into the budget, a little bit of a cushion, or what happens when, you budget it for a certain amount and then, gas prices shoot up and, it's squad cars driving around, so I'm sure you go through plenty.
Yep, so typically what we do is look at a 5-year range of how many gallons that we've used, and then Bernie provides a price per gallon that we're gonna estimate it on. So the current price is about, driving here today, I saw that it was $3.09 at Quick Trip. The contract that the city has with that, they take all of the gas taxes off for us, so it's actually a little cheaper than that. So I think as long as the price stays where it's at now, we'll be fine. If it goes up, then the city will have to dig into contingency funds to cover that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
On that video system that you're getting now, would you say that old system, basically, with that system, you could be possibly compromised? I mean, video can be compromised or be lost if you continued with that old system?
You're saying if we stay on the old video system that we have, is there a chance that videos could be lost?
Yes.
So the in-squad, there's days right now where we send out squads that don't have in-squad video systems that work.
Okay.
So that's a problem.
Yes.
And then with the body cameras, the actual contract ends in June of 2022, so we have to upgrade that.
Yes.
And actually, if we would stay with the company that we have Axe on, that's the cost. The cost for the first year actually through them is about $200,000, and then it goes down to $115,000 for the next 4 years. So if we go with the company that we're looking at now, it's going to be a lot cheaper, and it's going to be integrated. And it will not only integrate all the video systems, but it will integrate with our RMS system so that we'll be able to connect all the videos directly with the reports also.
That's good.
Anybody else?
Okay, then the next one I have is the Meg Unit Fund. So it's a special revenue fund, and really everything there is flat. Just so that there's an understanding of how this fund works, essentially, is we get certain revenues from the state and federal government to support the Meg unit, and then whatever is left at the end of the year would be shared by the county and the city. It would be split. Right now, we're projecting essentially an excess of dollars in there for next year. And we've been lucky the last 2 or 3 years, you'll get another grant come before you at the next meeting for the Meg unit, where we got another $50,000 to buy some more vehicles. So I think the budget here I would just present essentially as flat for the Meg unit.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
All right, so now we are rolling back to item 3.1, which is resolution number 752122, a resolution establishing the 2022 budget appropriations and the 2021 tax levy for the use during the calendar year. I am looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve that.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, then all in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Chair votes
Aye.
That item is approved. All right, and moving on to item 3.6, General Ordinance Number 252122, an ordinance repealing Sheboygan Municipal Code Section 38-3 relating to wards and voting polls and repealing Section 38-4 relating to aldermanic districts. I need help. Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't know what I'm doing
No
here.
problem. Let's see.
Is it-
This one.
Oh,
You might have to point.
She's good.
You just might have to point out.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
hi Meredith, sorry.
Hi, thank you. So the ordinance that's before you kind of goes along with the resolution that's the next one. And the ordinance basically is just, according to state statutes, we can establish and create wards either by ordinance or resolution. We've always done it by ordinance. However, due to the redistricting, it makes it a little bit easier if we take it out of the Muni Code and put it just by resolution. So that's basically all that's happening with this ordinance. It's changing it to repeal it to go by resolution instead of ordinance.
Okay. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
So, hi, I'm Alder Salazar here. Just to be clear, this isn't changing anything. It's just, like you're saying,
The next resolution is what's changing things. This is just changing it to be done by resolution instead of ordinance.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I make a motion to approve this.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Chair votes aye. 3.6 is approved. Item 3.7, resolution number 732122, a resolution amending the ward boundaries for the city of Sheboygan following the official publication of the United States Census date for the state of Wisconsin.
All right. Well, thank you again. I have a couple different presentations. I have an interactive map that I'm going to try to use. I'm not sure how well it will work. And then just some slides to show you. I brought Cheryl Smith with me today. There she is. She's our election specialist, if anybody doesn't know who she is. And she's really worked side by side with me on this whole project. So I'm going to give a brief overview from my IFC, kind of explain what we did, why we did what we did, and then give it over to you to tell us what you think. First of all, this has been a lengthy, shortened process. We have worked with the county clerk, the county GIS, the city's GIS, the attorney's office, Chad from planning, and DPW to really make this work in the time frame that we had. Every 10 years after the U.S. Census is published, redistricting is mandated. Federal law requires that the data that's to be provided by the states by March 31st of the year following the census. Due to COVID and the pandemic, we did not get this information until August 16th. So that put everything way back, and that's why we're coming to you in a very short time frame. Redistricting really happens at the local level in 3 phases. First, it goes to the county, and then they get to adopt a tentative county district plan. They're supposed to have 60 days to do that. And once that's adopted, they pass it down to all the municipalities. So we are supposed to then get 60 days to adopt our wards, to take their districts and divide it into wards. and give it back to the county for another 60 days for them to make any changes for what we proposed. Because it came to us on August 16th, and it needs to be adopted by November, it has gone very quickly. So everything got done to like 30 days. And it has to be done in November, because in November, the clerks have to publish a type A notice, which is the elections for the spring. So as alderpersons, you take out your papers December 1st. So this, all the maps and all the lines have to be drawn before that and published for this to work. So that's why, a little bit of a backstory on why we are doing this kind of quickly. One of our saving things that happened is in 2018, you guys voted to match our districts with the counties. So we were really able to work with the county and to make sure that our lines all matched, and we weren't trying to do our wards and our districts at the same time. So that was very helpful. So we got this information on September 18th after they adopted their plan. And the districts are based on ideal population and then weighted population. So when they looked at the districts, and let me pull up the PowerPoint here, and I'll just go through what we changed and what the county adopted. So our population was 49,920 people. And it's based on, let's see if this comes up. There we go. Yep. So we had to, and this is going to be kind of hard to see, but we had to base it on, you get a percentage that the population can be within that 4992, can be off by 10%. The county adopted a plan that each district is plus or minus 3% population, okay? And so to get to that point, we had to look at, I'll just do this first. So I'm just going to go through what the county changed, because that actually then reflects city aldermanic districts as well. So between 2 and 3, if you can see, I don't know if I can't even have a pointer, can I? There's a shaded area there. We removed some of the census blocks from 2 and added them to 3. So you can see these are going to be very minimal changes for the districts. Between 4 and 5, we removed some from 5 and added them to 4. Some were removed from 6 and added to 5. Some were removed from 8 and added to 6. So I don't know if you can see those little shaded areas. But there's population. What those are our census blocks. And one more. Removed from 7 and added to 8. So we can only, let me find this other map here. I don't know if you can see this. This is the computer system that we were given. And if you can see those blocks and the numbers inside of those are how many people live at each of those blocks. And what we had to do is take the district and how many people were in it and adjust them to come within those percentages so that all the districts had approximately the same amount of people in them. Okay, and that's why some of those people were moved between districts, but it was very, very minimal for the city. So that was really good. We also looked, if you can see those green and red marks, those are where alder people currently live and district supervisors live. So we took into account that when moving lines as well. Let's see. Okay. So, let's see. So based on Sheboygan's population, our wards can have between 800 and 3,200 people in them, which is a big variant. Wards are referred to as building blocks. When we looked at building wards, we had to make sure they contained full census blocks. So we couldn't take one of those blocks and split them. And if you can see, kind of on the east by the water there, there's one block that's like 0, but it goes from almost the north to the south. Even though it has 0 people in there, you can't split that. That has to remain in one ward or the other, or one district or the other. So we ran into that a little bit sometimes where you had big blocks that had like 200 to 300 people. So it either had to go in one or the other, which could sway the number very much so, and those were like the apartment buildings and things like that. They have to be compact, they have to lie within one municipality. We have to try to keep them unchanged as much as possible. They have to be contiguous, and they have to be consecutive, starting with the number 1. So this is the first time that I've done this because it happens every 10 years. So I tried to look back a little bit and see what happened 10 years ago, what happened 20 years ago, things like that. Well, in 1991, the Sheboygan was made up of 16 wards. In 2001, it was made up of 16 as well. And that was the 8 districts and 2 alders and 2 wards. And then in 2011, they changed the wards and made it 23 wards. And that was adopted. And then the state came in, I don't know if you remember this, and drew the assembly line on Superior and Geely, and then ended up splitting some of the wards. And so they ended up with 26 wards at that time. So if I can find, let me go back. Okay, so this is where we currently stand. You can see these numbers. What happened in wards 6, 7, 9, when they drew that line, it created these very small wards in the city. And so this was our chance to merge those into wards, and that's what we did. So what we're proposing is 20 wards. We're proposing 2 wards per district. We kept most of them the same. There's a couple instances, probably just one, where the lines for the wards changed. I don't know if I can pull up the map. But in District 2, the line went horizontal before. And because of that census block that I pointed out before, that's a 0 that you have to either take or leave, we decided the best way to split the district with the even amount of people was to split it vertically. So that one changed a little bit. Let me see if I can pull up the map. I think it has the old and the new on this. Oh, maybe not. It's supposed to. Might not be working. There it goes. Can you see that kind of green and blue in this district? See that green and blue between wards 2 and 3? That's where the line was vertical and we went horizontal. But if you look at the rest of the map, there's a couple instances where they changed, but for the most part, for the most part, they stayed pretty close to what they were. Except for this is where the 6, 7, and 9 were. That had to be added to other wards. Okay. So let's see here. What else we got? So this is what the numbers look like with what we did. The 10 districts, those are the numbers right next to the districts that the county adopted as their tentative plan, as the number of people. One thing that I can tell you that we looked at with Chad's help is future development. So these are the lines that are going to stay for the next 10 years. So some of the things that weren't in there were a lot of the apartment buildings. Penn Avenue was not in there. Kepsel, Badger State Lofts was not in there. The Oscar was not in there. So when we looked at these, you can see some of them have lower numbers and some of them have higher numbers, but that is to anticipate those numbers growing because we have to, again, remember, be between 800 and 3,200 people. So we wanted to keep some of our wards lower because the Oscar, for instance, might add another 400 people to that ward. So we had to take all that into account when we were looking at these as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about polling locations as well, but I'm wondering if you have any questions about how we drew the lines, where we drew the lines. Yes.
I guess now that you did all this great work, can the state come again and screw it up like they did before? That's my question. I should take it as Mike, but yes.
What happened last time is the state came in well before, I think the city passed theirs, looking back on documents, I think the city passed theirs in July. The state came in August, so the city was able in the next month to adjust that and be well before the time frame. I know that there's some proposed maps out there, but I know there's a lot of litigation going on. They actually have until April to pass theirs.
Okay.
Which puts a kink into a little bit of our stuff because we have a February and April election. So whatever we pass today is if they don't come up with their plans, is what we're gonna go with for the next 6 months. But they have until April to draw their lines because the partisan elections don't start until August next year. So we might not see anything for a couple months. So yes, this could be a good plan for now and it could change.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I do. Does this change a lot from the county then? Because we were trying to stay with the county lines. So, and I know you said it's minor changes, but is it going to make a difference?
So that's why we worked with the county initially, is because whatever they changed, we changed. So what I showed you in those first couple slides that the county changed, those then became our boundaries as well.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How are constituents notified of the change?
We will be sending out postcards to every household. I think that because and I didn't go into some of this yet, because we are changing, we went from 26 wards to 20. Mostly, a lot of people's wards are going to change their ward numbers because of the 6, 7, and 8 disappearing and kind of going in with the other wards. Everybody's going to have a new ward number. And I'm going to talk about polling locations. A lot of people are going to have a new polling location as well. So we thought it would be best to send postcards to everyone to make sure that they were able to go on My Voter Caller office or figure out what ward they're in and where they're going to be voting. We got guidance from the Wisconsin Election Commission that said we don't have to do that, but I think that's the right thing to do because we are making a lot of changes with numbers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, okay, so we're going to go on to polling locations. All right, so right now, the city had 8. That included the senior center, correct? And so why did it go? Do it from the current slide. Thank you. There, okay. So we had 8, and then the senior center shut down, so that left us with 7. In the last 2 years, we've done a lot of moving of a couple of these polling locations, one all due to things outside of our control, COVID, and the senior center shutting down. We would like to go back to have 10 voting locations. Number one, because we have bigger wards, and not all these locations can hold those bigger wards. and it just makes it better to spread them out across the city. We've always had a very difficult time finding polling locations on the south side of town. And so Cheryl and Melissa from our office have been going place to place, and I'll show you some of the pictures that we have, but just explaining where we're at and who can accommodate us and who wants to accommodate us. And so we kind of have come up with this plan so far, but it's not in the resolution yet because it's not finalized yet. The map in front of you, I wonder if Cheryl do you want to just point to kind of where those locations are when we talk about them? So the Humane Society is under construction, has a beautiful new building, and they really would like to have us as a polling location. So Ward 2, what? Do you want me to put up the map here? It does, you can't see oh yeah, you can't put that on the screen. Can we put this on, can this be on the screen? I don't know if that can.
You want your stick?
So these are pictures of the Humane Society. Oh, I don't know. Can't kind of do both here. Can you go to okay, so these are some pictures of the Humane Society. It's not quite done. They'll be done by the time we have our election. But automatic doors, ADA accessible, pass by some nice animals on your way to vote. They have a nice room. So we're thinking of not going to the quarry anymore and going to the Humane Society. The quarry has some issues. It's not ADA. They don't have an automatic door, things like that. This is a brand new building. So that is one of our choices. Let's see. EV free, we've been there for a long time. They have a beautiful facility. They have 6 wards there now. But they had the 6, 7, 8, the tiny wards there. So we're giving them 3. But they'll all be about 2,500 per ward. So they'll have the same amount of people. They actually have a little bit more. So you can see that they had 6,700 voters or people with 6 wards, and with 3 wards they're going to 75. So it's a little different. First Congo, we've always worked with them as well. They had 4 wards. They're going down to 3 wards, but they have the same amount of people. Fountain Park is the church up right by Fountain Park. And here are pictures of that. They have a drive-up where people can be dropped off. And they have an elevator, and then they have some carpeted stairs. But this, on the right, you can see their room, which is a very nice spaced room, and we were only thinking about putting 1 ward here as well. The library, we've been in the library for many, many years. Nothing's really changing in there. Same amount of people. First United, we're going to drop about 800 people from that location. Good Shepherd had a lot of people, a lot of voters going to Good Shepherd. So we were able to drop that one by about 1,000 people, which is really good. The Oscar is kind of our hope, but we don't know for sure. That's kind of the one that's hanging out there. They're not quite complete. We haven't been able to see the space. They also have a workout room there that has glass that wouldn't really work unless it was closed or covered up. So we're not really sure if that is going to work, but it's a very good location because it's a little bit, again, more southern. We have the option of Lakeshore Lanes said they would take us as well. There's some ADA concerns unless we could work with the city to get their entrance worked on because there are gaps in the sidewalk that are an inch or 2 going into the building. their space is beautiful, but it's just getting into the building that is an issue. And then the last one is Christ Lutheran. Pastor Google at Good Shepherd, we've been talking to him, and he's the pastor of this church as well. And he said, why don't you come check it out? So we did, and they passed it through their board that said they'd be willing to take us as well. So that was great for us because although it's close to Bethany that we have, it's still a southern voting facility. And when you look at our map, it looks like there's a lot, can you point out there? It looks like there's a lot of space over here. But if you look at the census blocks, those are all zeros. So there's a whole bunch of area on the western side, right? Western side, that is correct. So it's part of the city, but nobody lives there. So even though it looks kind of disproportionate where we have our voting locations, there's nobody that votes in that area. So I guess this is for information. This will be coming back to you when we finalize them, but I didn't know if you guys had any opinions or thoughts, feedback for us going forward.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are the locations you selected are on the bus routes? So transportation will be able to get there if those folks who don't have vehicles?
Yes. The Humane Society, we'd have to check out, but there's a bus route. Chad just said yes.
Okay, great. I think they're all great solutions, and I'm glad that we've got more instead of less, and I'm happy to hear that they're on bus route locations as well.
Anybody else? Dean?
Yes, with having the more locations, is staffing going to be a problem at all with those? I know that you had some staffing problems, but that was because of COVID. Are you pretty confident that you'd be able to staff those?
We're pretty confident that we're always looking, I'm sorry. Right. When we decrease the number of wards, it is less people that way.
Okay.
With reporting units and paperwork that needs to be done, because there's only 20 reporting units then instead of 26. Okay. So that kind of balances us out. I think that people are going to have to shift where they normally maybe worked, which will be communicating with them too. But, I think that it works out better for our voters, and that's what we're concentrating on.
So does this one need a resolution then, or do we?
So the resolution is for the redistricting and adopting those 20 wards. It's not adopting any of the polling locations. At this time, we have 30 days before an election, which will come to you well before that, but we wanted to at least give you a heads up on what we were thinking with regards to where our wards would vote. But yeah, one other thing that I do need to ask you to do when you vote on the resolution is we had an annexation that just got adopted in the last month.
Okay.
So that was not part of the attachment, because we have to attach all of the census block numbers. So that was part of your attachment that was on there. Was this attachment that had all the census blocks. There's one more added to this. So I would like to replace the one that's attached with this one that includes that annexation.
So the resolution should be with the replaced. Is that correct?
Thomas, how are we supposed to do this?
How do we say it?
Sorry.
Just tell me how to say it.
So it would be a motion to recommend approval of the resolution with the revised.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
So moved.
good. Thank you. Thank you for saving us. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, please signify by stating aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Sorry about that, we had a little problem there.
Okay.
So, does anybody oppose, because I've been neglecting to say that, and I'm sorry? All right, chair votes aye, so that motion is approved. Item 4.1, our next meeting date will be October 27th, 2021. We have exhausted the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Oppose? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you.
Bye, all.
Mike. Said to me that you're supposed to.
Well, I'm glad you told me because I
You're supposed to ask if anything.
whoopsie.
Even though you hear everybody
Yeah.
say aye, I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna go grab my